Are you sitting with thousands of hours of B roll content and telling yourself, I'll start posting tomorrow? Are you in your head worried about your friends and family, thinking you're cringe for choosing to be visible? Are you chasing trends instead of building influence? Welcome to the Visibility Standard, where the visionaries of today are changing the rules of their industries and letting their voice be heard. I'm your host, Jasmine, and we are setting the standard. I'm so excited for my guest today. She is your witchy website building alchemist, MJ Kast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
What is a trend that you are seeing online that you are actually really loving?
I think people are getting sick of the shit. I feel like collectively, people are starting to get very tired. And I started seeing it happen a few years ago. Like, honestly, when we were all in quarantine time and there was like this really big retail and commerce push, I feel like it like maxed us out and peaked us out.
Mhm.
And since that point, I've been seeing more and more people getting really tired and burnt out on like being sold to and really tired of just buying and that just the overall like market trends that have been happening for a long time. I think people got really sick of playing professional. Everyone
Mhm.
got a little taste of working from home and just like kind of having to be themselves and having their kids run in and out of Zoom calls and stuff like that. And when the shift kind of started going back into like how things were, everyone was like, but why are we doing that? I actually hate that. And kind of pushing against it in that way, and it's been picking up speed. I feel like every year that goes by, more and more people are starting to reject that shit and reject
Mhm.
playing a role and performing and spending their money because they're told to spend their money. They want to spend their money on things that they align with and things that they believe in and people that they value and stories more
Mhm.
than like just products or whatever. I feel like that shift has been lighting me up because I'm right there with them. I've been there for a while. And so feeling that like collective shift has been really exciting for me to witness.
Yeah, there is this exhaustion with performance, and like a lot of
Yeah.
people who walked away from traditional work roles recognize like, why am I bringing this shit into my business? Like I left here for a
Yeah.
reason. Why am I bringing it back with me? And so we've kind of exhausted the, oh, show up really nice, neat, perfect, the idea of professionalism and allowing authenticity to drive like how we reach our ideal audience.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's like for me, it's not that it's funny, but I never really felt like I had another choice but to be myself. Like, I don't feel like there is the same level of performance for me from a very young age. And so I went kind of down my own path to get places and showed up in a lot of spaces where I was not really like expected or they were expecting something
Mhm.
different and I just couldn't do that. And so now that everyone is kind of collectively going that way. And I also think that there's maybe a little bit of an awakening happening with people wanting to know what am I doing and why am I here and what am I good for and who am I outside
Yeah.
of what I've been told to be and outside of
Hmm.
who I've been told that I am, whether it's society, culture, pop culture, whatever. And so because we're spending so much time at work and online, we're kind of starting to say, well, does this align with what I want to do and how I want to live and who I am and the things that matter to me or not? And kind of challenging that a little
Yeah.
bit more. So now it's starting to show up in these places where performing was something else. And so without really intending to be, ended up kind of being I don't want to say a role model, but like a leader where people were coming to me being like, you have been just doing your own thing for a long time. I want to do my own thing. Like, how do you do that?
Mhm.
And it wasn't a part of what I was thinking that I was going to be doing for sure.
Well, according to your website, you started working for yourself at 16.
Yeah. I mean, I actually made my first money like online when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
Actually, it's a crazy story. It's a little bit inappropriate, but
Okay.
not horribly. So I used to love drawing these like dolls, these like vector dolls. I don't know how old you
Mm-hmm.
are, so I don't know if that's like a thing, but uh before there was like Photoshop really and Canva and stuff like that, like there was these like little design programs. So I would design these kind of like dolls. And I started to try and make them more and more realistic. And I started doing vector drawings of celebrities. And there was online forum sites. I would post on them and share my work. And they'd have little like contests and stuff like that. And then MySpace was big back then, and some people
Mm-hmm.
started reaching out saying, "Oh, can you make a vector of me for my MySpace page?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then someone reached out to me who was a cam girl, which is like the OG OnlyFans. They used to have like private
Mm-hmm.
campsites. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Could you make a vector of me for my private campsite blog?" And I was like 100%. So she sent me a picture of her in the bikini. And I did, not realizing that I was 11 years old at all. And I did vectors of her. And then she loved it. And then I started making the header of her website. And then I started designing it. And she would refresh her website every single month. And she was a really popular cam girl. And so then other cam girls started hitting me up. And by the end of like the summer between grade 7 and 8, I made almost $10,000 on this brand new site called PayPal. And I was telling my parents I need their debit card because I had all this money on the internet that I needed to deposit. And they were like, "Sorry, what are you doing on the internet? And what is going on?" And that was kind of my first journey into self-employment in the arts.
Oh my gosh, I'm upset. I mean, you found a target audience. You
I guess
found
so.
a service, a need in a profession, and you supported it.
Yeah. Yeah. But my first like official side hustle, I was like 16. And then my first legal, like registered business, I was 19, and I stopped working like for someone else. Like I had a day job during that time, obviously. I stopped working for anyone else when I was 20 years old,
Okay.
and I never went back.
Yeah. And now, like you said, you are in a space now where you are leveling up your how you show up, how people
Mhm.
receive you, what your work looks like. Tell me a little bit about what that process has been like for you.
My first business, I was a photographer, and I was a photographer for almost 10 years. And I do feel like I was really myself during that time. But I also was an artist in the arts, and I feel like that was actually something that was expected of me. Like I used to joke that every time I got a tattoo, I would make more money because people were like associating this like alternative person with the work that I was doing. So I never felt like it was difficult to show up as myself, if that makes sense. However, in 2018, myself and another photographer opened an event venue and creative studio, and we had a team, and it was this big business, and we had investors, and we were going to like board meetings with like uh our financial team and marketing team, and we were wearing like overalls with like paint all over it because we were renovating the studio at the time, showing up and they're just all in suits and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I started to feel like, whoa, like the person that is expected to be in this seat is not the way that I'm showing up. And then I ended up leaving the studio for a while, and I moved into creative direction and ended up working a lot of like corporate and commercial retail roles where again, I just don't feel like that's what I felt like was expected of me. And I was also growing up myself at the same time, right? There's a difference between being yourself at 22 and being yourself at 29 and being yourself at 30 and 35. Like I
Mm-hmm.
personally was shifting and trying on different versions of myself and different identities at the same time. And so somewhere along the way, I started really trying to like play the corporate professional girl role
Mm-hmm.
and just dropping like unexpected F bombs in meetings to shake it up a little bit every now and then. And it was working, and it was working, and I was making good money, and I was well respected, and I had a lot of, exciting roles. And it just didn't feel like I was making the most of
Mm-hmm.
myself and what I could be doing and my energy and what I was kind of like called to do. And I started getting this like little feeling to move away from it and to work one-on-one with women in like service provider roles, specifically also because I wanted to move out of retail work and product sales because I'm not a huge fan of consumerism and I didn't feel good about adding to the like waste and the
Mm-hmm.
products and the buy this and you need this and the whatever. It just didn't feel like a good use of my talent and skill set and energy and time. And so I moved into working with women. I felt like I've been a service provider and a woman for so many years. I have a unique perspective of that on top of my skills in like design and strategy, and that would be something that I could put together. And I really could not have anticipated that when I actually got into it, the main thing that I would end up doing would be drawing out someone's authentic self and kind of mirroring their identity back to them and then giving them permission to step forward with that in that role. And so through that evolution of my business, I started evolving into trying to become more and more authentically myself because if I'm going to lead you to it, I have to be ahead, right? I have to be doing it
Mm-hmm.
myself. I have to be walking the talk and realizing how many layers there are when it comes to being authentic. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not that I was not showing up as myself because I was, but I was showing up as this one little version, little sliver of myself. It wasn't that it was inauthentic. I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up because they're not showing up fake. It's
Yeah.
still a version of them. It's still a part of them. It's real. It's just not the whole truth. It's like
Mm.
this little tiny bit that they've decided is going to be acceptable for whatever role they're trying to play or whatever person they're trying to connect to. And it's just this little bite-sized morsel. And that's what ends up feeling a little bit disconnected and inauthentic because where does the rest of you go?
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you're trying to funnel it into this like little sliver, where does the rest of you live and show up? So
Yeah.
getting to a place where you can show up fully and wholly, and still feel just as good. It is a journey. It is a personal journey to go on. I recently made a thread talking about how I'm 36 years old and I have a teddy bear and I've slept with a teddy bear for so long and it went crazy and I ended up connecting with like 12 new clients from it and like a post about my teddy bear has nothing to do with my business. You wouldn't think that this was relevant at all. And I almost didn't post it for the sake of like, would this be embarrassing? Are people going to like think that I'm childish or whatever because of this thing? And then instead, I ended up connecting so deeply with so many
Mm-hmm.
people. But from the other side of posting it or sharing it, I would never have kind of put the two together. So I'm kind of on my own journey of going deeper and deeper and like how deep can I go before it's too much and how me can I
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable being in these layers as I like kind of guide people to do the same thing.
Well, like you said, people are tired of being sold to or saying, you need this, you lack this, and this is something that I can offer you. Part of branding and marketing right now is, can your client connect with you on something? Is there something about you that your client sees themselves in and they're like, okay, this person can support me in building my website and allowing me to step into a different version of my business, allowing me to gravitate to some more authentic side of myself and not just compartmentalizing this one aspect that seems digestible and leaving the other 90% of myself on the shelf for later. I want to
Mhm.
bring 100% of myself into business, and this person can support me in doing that.
Yeah, I there's like a quote and I wish that I remember who I heard it from so that I could give them the kudos for it, but basically just that you only need to be 10% ahead of your audience to be 100% of service to them.
Hmm.
And so showing up just a little more authentic, a little more you, a little more learning, but not having to put yourself on this pedestal of like, I actually know everything and I'm so far
Mhm.
ahead of you and I'm going to whatever. I think that being more authentic about your whole self, I don't want to say the good and the bad, but the things that you're great at and maybe the things that you're still trying to figure out, it, people relate to specific things about you now and go, oh, I see myself in her, but also I see where I want to be, or the
Mhm.
way that this person is now aligns with this future version of myself that I'm kind of trying to step into. So I feel like they might be a good guide for me. And so I think the biggest thing that I've seen in showing up authentically is people connecting with where you are now, but then when they want to work with you, they're also seeing something that they want for themselves or want to align with in the future, because you're just that
Yeah.
little bit ahead of them by like showing and owning that thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the aspirational piece of content that I believe is still very alive and well. I made a post today actually about relatability and how a lot of people will comment, "Oh, this isn't relatable, this isn't relatable." And I feel like that's become a catch-all term for people to use in projecting an insecurity or a frustration that they're having with a creator. But as like aspirational content is something that is still valuable because a lot of people are still very ambitious, are still striving, are still growing. And so being able to embody somebody that people can see themselves as, and again, it doesn't need to be all the way like 100% expert, know it all. Just being two steps ahead of your ideal client can be so valuable and
Yeah,
portraying that out into the world.
100%. And also, I think that the whole like, oh, that's not relatable. If you're only taking in content that's exactly where you are now, like you're only staying where you are now, that is not actually helping you. It might be
Hmm.
affirming, it might be
Hmm.
comforting because it's very familiar to you. But I think where people get like really caught up is they're looking at aspirational content or inspirational content from someone who's like 36 miles ahead of them. Like we
Hmm.
have these like millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires that people are following and hanging off their every word. But the person making 150,000, 200,000 is a lot closer to you than this
Hmm.
person who's making $20 million a year. Like there's so much you have to go through mindset, energetically, lifestyle, whatever, if you ever wanted to aspire to be that person. Right. So it's like they're looking at things that are like, oh, I aspire to the private jet. And it's like, what do you just aspire to, like a regular schedule and routine? Like follow someone who's
Hmm.
just like a little bit ahead of you, because that is so much more attainable, I guess you could say, like step by step. So I think when
Yeah.
people are looking for just like straight up relatable, it's like this thing where they either want everything to be relatable to where they are now, or they're looking so far ahead of themselves that I don't want to say that it's unrealistic, because I think that anything is realistic if that's what you want and that's what you kind of like put yourself out there for. But there's like the gap missing in the middle of like realistic aspiration of just like the 5 steps ahead, the 10 steps ahead of you. And that is, I feel like, the stuff that's kind of starting to come in now. Like the people, the influencers with just like the non-aesthetic houses that are just doing regular shit, and people that are not models, they're not rich, they're not this or not that. They're just like doing something really well or doing something really authentically or with heart or in a way that maybe you haven't thought about before.
Yeah. What's a mindset shift that has allowed you to show up more whole online?
I've had many. I still am continuously having them all the time. A mindset shift to show up online. One, that people's perception of you or opinion of you is none of your business. That's been like the thing that I consistently repeat to myself over and over again.
Hmm.
The second thing is to fail as quickly as possible and to start things off like not good at it and
Mm-hmm.
be totally fine with that and not just, oh, I'm not going to mind that I'm shit, but or cringe, but like that I am excited about it. My son, one of my sons, he loves making art and he often will like try new things and then get really frustrated because he's not good at it his first time, and his instinct, like all of ours, is to be like, oh, forget about this. This isn't the path for me. But if you look at the people who are doing the things that you really want to do and ask them either how many times they were bad or how many times they failed, without fail, they will tell you hundreds, thousands, constantly for years. Everyone. There's not a single person who's a master of their craft that is incredible from the jump. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case and every single person has to be trash for a certain amount of time, that is like the price you pay. That's an unavoidable fact. So you have to kind of pay the price of doing that to reach mastery or to get better. So it's kind of like I get really excited to sit on an airplane to go somewhere because I feel like the discomfort of the travel is like the price that I'm paying for this beautiful experience that I'm going to receive once I get there. And it's kind of the same thing. So I almost started to feel like excited to fail or be cringe as much and as fast as I could to pay the price that I needed to pay to get to the
Mm-hmm.
place that I want to be. So rather than just kind of being like, I'm going to thug it out and just, oh, I guess I'm just going to be bad and I'm not going to watch it, I wanted to like embrace it and be open and excited about it. Like, oh, this is me
Mm-hmm.
practicing. This is me failing faster. This is me trying. This is like, I got 10 crap videos or 10 times that I showed up and made myself cringe online. That is 10 steps closer to the place that I want to go. And if I cannot avoid paying that price, I might as well pay it joyfully and as fast and with as
Mm-hmm.
much acceptance as possible. And when I do feel super cringe, I just refuse to rewatch it. I also have been telling myself recently not to be too precious about anything. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't have to be so perfect. No one's really looking at this with the eyes that I'm looking at, with the scrutiny that I'm looking at, and it's going to be gone. Like, the way that the algorithm moves, shit goes out there and then it's gone, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone so fast. And yes, it's still there on the internet, it's whatever, but like you don't have to watch it again. Like it doesn't, don't be so precious about it. Just make it and get
Mm-hmm.
it out there. And, so when I find myself going back and forth on the details of something where, oh, the lighting wasn't great or the volume was whatever, don't be so precious about it. It's just
I
another
love
step
that.
towards where you're trying to go.
I love that because as the person who's creating and posting it, we're like, oh, this is everyone's gonna see this. Like everyone's gonna notice every tiny detail about it. But the algorithm moves. It is so quick. People have maybe about 3 seconds with the video, and the next video comes along. And so being able to remain consistent, showing up, and remembering like someone's going to resonate with something that you're putting out there. But if you stop, they're never going to find you. They're never going to meet you. And so keep going. And like you said,
Yeah,
that fail early, fail often. I mean, that also like increases like our bounce back time, our ability to bounce back, keep going, to get it better the next time. There's never going to be a perfect, especially when you're in the creative space. There's always
yeah.
something to improve, to grow on, but being able to fail, bounce back, and keep going, it sounds like has been a really big motivator for you.
Definitely. And I also think the more that you do that, you build trust in yourself to do the bounce back. And then these little like things or these uncomfortable feelings, they start to feel like a bit exciting because you're like, ooh, where am I going to take this? Or like, what is this going to lead to in my own growth or my own like ability. It's like a muscle that I'm flexing. It's like I'm working out
Mhm.
and I have a little 2 pound weight and then I lift it enough times. Now it's a 5 pound weight. I lift it enough times. Now it's a 10 pound weight. So
Mhm.
how many times do I have to lift it before I go to the next weight? I every once in a while will post like videos of me singing in my car while I'm driving. I don't drive very often, but when I do, I like music. So I would like be dancing and singing and I like know the lyrics to every song. Like I just have like a memory like that. So I was like jamming out. And then I forgot that I posted. I had a busy day and I came back at the end of the day, watched my stories, and I almost threw up. I was like, oh my God, how could you put that on the internet? Like, that is horrible. And then I went into my DMs and I had people, oh my God, it's my favorite song. Oh my God, I totally do that when I was in the car. That's so funny, blah, blah. You have so much confidence posting this. And I was like, girl, when I rewatched this, like my throat was like closed. And I was like, I need to take this down. Like, this is horrible. And then I was like, you know what? Don't be too precious about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's actually what I was doing. I really was singing and dancing in the car. Like, fuck it. If somebody
Hmm.
sees it and they don't like it, they're not for me anyways. And it's something that the thing is that with authenticity, the deeper you go into it, the more you're going to turn people off.
Hmm.
And it's something that I've kind of spoken to a lot in that a lot of us really want to be magnetic and we want to like attract the right people, the right clients, the right friends, the right relationships. But magnetism, the key word there is magnet, and a magnet has two sides, and one side attracts and one side repels, and the strength of the magnet is equal both ways. So if you want to be super magnetic and you want your people to be drawn into your orbit, to your energy, you have to be repelling them with equal strength, the people that are wrong. And so
Hmm.
I think people like they don't want to repel people with the things that they think are like embarrassing or unsightly or whatever, and so they end up also not being magnetic to who they really are on the other side because they end up just a super weak magnet. You might attract somebody here or there, but you can't repel anybody with who you are. You're definitely also not attracting them either.
Hmm. Yeah, when we think about being polarizing or being authentic, the it's not that we're going to attract everything or everybody. And honestly, if you're doing that, there's something about you that's probably not being authentic if you are able
I
to relate
agree.
to every single person that comes across, being able to have that discernment and having that self-trust in yourself that how I'm showing up is authentic and the people that are meant to find it will find it. Like you said, we can't be too precious about anything. We can't be too precious about how we show up, what we post. We can think about impact but there's so much that we can't be in our heads about if we're truly going to show up authentically. One thing about your story that really resonates, and that seems to stay consistent for you is your commitment to your creativity.
Yes. I don't think it's an option. I think
Okay.
creativity is definitely something it shows up differently for everybody. I think that people automatically think of like visual creativity, and there's creative thinking, there's so many ways to be creative. And I think
Hmm.
that all of us as human beings are just inherently creative beings. Um, my commitment actually isn't to creativity though. My commitment is to curiosity.
Mm.
And my curiosity often leads me down a very creative path. And I kind of think of it like this little thread, like at the edge of like a sweater or something. And when I feel or see this little thread of curiosity, I follow it. And sometimes I pull it and the thread is like only a few inches long. And I reach the end of the thread and I go another path. And sometimes
Hmm.
that thread unravels a whole sweater while I'm going down it. So whenever I feel curiosity towards something, I will explore it, whether it's a person or a place or an experience. But also, it's led me down so many different creative paths. I was like knitting for a while, and I like started creating like knitting patterns for many years, and then at a certain point, it just kind of like burned out. I was a visual artist. Actually, that's one of my paintings right there. I was a visual artist and for over a decade, and I did my own solo shows. And then, it kind of transitioned. And at the end of this year, I kind of felt last year, I felt this little voice inside telling me that music was a direction that I should pursue. So I got DJ decks for Christmas just to Why not? Why not? And I don't know where it'll take me. I have no idea, but I feel curious about it. And that's enough for me to pursue it. And if I go
Hmm.
down that path a little bit and then and that's it. And they all kind of lead into each other. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. Or sometimes you go down a path and it ends really quickly and you don't really know why. And then 5 years later, something else going on. And then the skills or the thing you were doing back then comes back up again. So my truest commitment is to curiosity in general. And it has led me down some very creative, unique paths and expressions of self. And that is my true commitment in my life is to my curiosity.
Hmm. That's a really powerful reframe. It's what's allowed you to not only like keep going, it sounds like, but it's allowed you to continue feeling excited about what you are creating or what you're
Yeah.
pursuing, is that there is a curiosity behind it, there's a deep-seated interest behind it. And so
Hmm.
when we have that self-trust and that belief in ourselves, it's like, well, my curiosity hasn't steered me wrong yet. Let me see where this can lead me, let me see where this is trying to guide me.
Yeah, and I also think it stops things from becoming stale because when my curiosity reaches the end, I don't feel like I have to keep going in something just because I've been doing it or because, I it's been a part of I've been down this path for a long time. And I think sometimes people start going in one direction or get interested in something and then they feel like they can't divert from that because oh well, what about all this time that I've wasted, or what about all this walking I've done down this path? I have to keep going. And I just don't really feel like that. Like when I get to the end of the string, that was just the end of the string. There doesn't necessarily have to be this bigger thing or I have to continue on with it once it's run its course. Like I can just follow it to the end, and when it's the end, I thank it for the experience and then keep my eyes open for the next thread to follow. And so I never really feel like if I do pivot away from it, that something was like lost or missed. After 10 years of being a photographer, I felt a really strong tug of curiosity and I just started following it. And everyone was like,
Mm.
but you were a photographer for so long. Like, don't you want to stick to that? You're so good at it. Da, 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 da. You have so much going on. And I was like, yeah, but I think I just reached the end of the thread. And it's not for anything. I don't feel like sadness. I don't feel remorse. It was a great thread. I loved following that. And I hope to love many more things. I can't wait to see all the
Mhm.
threads that I'm presented.
What can people see? What can people expect to see more from you in 2026?
This year, I have committed myself to not reading any more like business books or learning any more tips and tricks, or I'm just putting a pause on education.
Hmm.
And I want to expand spiritually and like joyfully. I want to kind of move away and against a lot of the stuff that we're really told to do, especially right now. And like, if you're not doing this, you're whatever. And I want to move in a way that's following the curiosity and following kind of just my intuition and things that make me feel really good. And I want to see what happens there. And
Hmm.
I made a post about it on Threads, and I thought it was funny because so many people were like, well, good luck to your business because you're not going to be consistent anymore and you're not going to do this and you're not going to grow. And I was like, I never said any of those things. Like that has nothing to do with anything. There's actually no fucking rules.
Hmm.
There's no rules. There's no like, you got to follow this and you got to do. If that was the case, everybody with a college degree would be a millionaire right now, like they told everybody that they were going to be. And there's no rules. You don't have to follow anything in order to get to that path. So this year, I really want to see what grows in me and around me by kind of I followed the rules. I built something for myself, and now I want to see what expands when I just pay attention to my spirit and the things that move me joyfully and see kind of what comes from that for me
Yeah.
and for my clients and for the people around me. And I'm excited about it. Like as I moved towards 2026, the last few months of the year, I felt like this like bright light. And
Hmm.
at the closer I got to the end of the year, the brighter it became. And I just felt so, and I had been saying this and thinking about how I was going to approach it for a while before that. And the closer it got, the better it got. And now that I'm here, feel so, I don't know. I would like whatever is the opposite of resistance. Like I feel very like in flow with that energy and very excited to see what comes of it. And I'm not disillusioned into thinking that it's going to be all great and all glamorous and all easy at all. But I'm also very excited to see the challenges that come from that as well within
Hmm.
me and my own maybe like resistance or whatever, and how I can move through it and see what
Yeah.
comes out at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's an
Well,
experiment year.
I'm so excited to see everything and how your journey continues to evolve this year. And I'm so grateful that you've taken the time out to join me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me a place to chat. I hope that I said something meaningful and I wasn't just rambling.
Absolutely. I think people can take so much away, like from this episode about self-trust, about curiosity, just about following the path that is in front of them and that there are no rules. Like it's
Mm,
truly all arbitrary and what works for someone else might not work for you. But if you're following
100%.
your curiosity, you're following like that gut feeling, then like you
Hmm.
really can't steer yourself wrong.
Yeah. And even what is even wrong, even if you do happen to take a misstep and you end up in a dark part of the woods, like, do you not
Yeah.
trust your own legs to walk you back somewhere else?
Yeah.
Do it
Thanks
for the
again for
plot.
joining me.
Thank you.